Hello everyone and welcome back to CasaCloud. We are continuing our second video of our series NODEJS Microservice. In the previous video, what we have done is we have pulled this Node.js TypeScript blueprint repository. It has the complete source code of the Node.js microservice. We have cloned this particular repository using this command. The entire video is already present in this playlist. You will see the Node.js microservice playlist, and this was the first video where we have done the setup and the demo. We have seen how should we run this particular server. The source code is already there in the repository. We have gone through step by step how TypeScript is used, how logging and tracing is done, and how Swagger documentation is exposed, which explores the APIs exposed by this server. And then we have already seen the grunt as a task runner, which is helping us to compile the code and even to use nodemon to restart the server whenever some changes happen. So today our focus is to dockerize this particular microservice. When I say dockerize, I want to create a Docker image. The prerequisite for today's video is you should have the Docker desktop installed because we want to create the Docker image. So this is something that the Docker desktops look like, where we have the list of images. Once we create the image, we'll see it here, and the containers. So first thing first, you need to install the Docker Hub or the Docker desktop. So install Docker desktop. If you see any of the first link, you need to go to the Docker desktop, and if you scroll down, you will see here install Docker desktop for Mac, Windows and Linux. Choose your operating system and then you can follow the instructions as given below. Okay, so once this is done, your Docker desktop is installed. You should see something like this, and by default you'll have no images or no containers. Okay, let's go back and pull this particular repository. We already have this repository pulled. If you are starting it now, then you need to go to your favorite IDE and pull and just paste the URL, and then you'll have this particular source code with you. Okay, and today we'll be going through the Dockerfile. So this Dockerfile will help us to create the Docker image. Let's go through this Dockerfile. What it does, it is starting from Node.js 20. What is this? This is my base image. What is the base image? I want a layer on the operating system that have the minimum packages installed. That's why I'm saying I want a particular image in which Node.js is installed with version 20. Why version 20? Because currently the version 20 is installed in my local development machine. I've already tested this particular server software and all the packages with Node.js 20. So I am assured that Node.js 20 is supported for this particular server. If I am supporting Node.js 18, I'll be selecting Node.js 18 here. That's why, because we are supporting 20, we are using this. Okay, so what is work directory? Work directory is the default directory where all the source code will be pasted inside the container. Once the image is created, from the image a container will be created. That container will have all the source code of this application inside this work directory. We can choose any of the path there, but by choosing the user src app, I'm just making sure that when I'll get inside the container, I must see my application source code or the build code inside this particular path. You can choose or select any other path as well. Okay, then I'm defining a local variable for this particular Dockerfile, which is app port. This is a port on which the server will be running. Further, I'll be using this particular variable. It is just a declaration right now. I'm not using it for now. Now, the next step is I'm copying the package.json, which is this particular file. Package.json has all the dependencies required for my particular server to run. Then I'm copying the entire src folder. What do I have in src? I have my server.ts, which is my main file, router controller, and the common where I have the response message and constant. So we are currently pasting the complete TS files here, but eventually we'll be removing it once we are done with the build. Okay, so we copy pasted the source code, we copy pasted the config files. Config file is this config file, then the grunt file. Why we need the grunt file? Because I want to build the package here during creation of the image. Okay, that's why I want the grunt file. I want tsconfig because runtime during the creation of this image, I'll be converting the TypeScript files which are present inside the src to this particular local directory where my source code will live inside this particular container. Okay, so that's why I'm just copy pasting all these three files. I'm making sure I'm doing the npm install production. So when I say npm install production, then it will make sure that in the package.json it will only install the dependencies and it will not install the dev dependencies. Okay, so that's the production. Then what I'm doing, npm run build. What it will do, npm run build will execute a script. Where do we find the script? In package.json, we need to go to the script section, build. What is npm run build? Build is grunt build. Okay, so it is trying to execute a grunt command with a parameter build. Let's see what it does in the grunt file. Grunt build. Okay, this is the particular task that will be executed. It is doing ts and ts lints. That means it is just building, compiling the ts file to js files and then linting the project. That's all it is doing. It is not running the server, which we were doing during the default phase that we have seen in the previous video. So my interest currently only to convert the TypeScript to JavaScript and just lint the file and do not run. You may be asking, why don't we directly push the dist file here instead of src? Why are we doing this grunt file, tsconfig, tslint? This has nothing to do during the image creation. We can do a shortcut that because we have already compiled the project, we already have dist file, we can directly say, let's not do the build completely here. Let's directly copy paste the dist file and let's run it. It will definitely work, but work only through your development machine. When you are creating the image from your development machine, it will definitely work. The image will be created, the image will run as well. But let's consider a scenario where we are doing the complete CI/CD pipeline, where you have pushed the source code inside the GitHub, and from GitHub there is a webhook which is triggering the CI pipeline. Are you pushing this particular dist folder inside the GitHub? Let's see. If I'm going back here, do I have the dist folder? I do not have the dist folder, and never meant to push the dist folder because it is not my source code. My source codes are only the TS files. Okay, you pushed the source code to your GitHub, your commit, and then the CI webhook is called. Then it will pull everything which is present inside that particular branch. Will he get that particular dist file? No, he doesn't have the dist file. What he has, or what that particular worker node has, is only the source files. So because that particular worker node, which is the part of CI pipeline, has to create this image during the CI/CD pipeline phase, he has to compile the build, which is the dist folder, from the source folder during runtime only. And this is the only way we can do and make sure that I am not doing the dependency of dist file having inside the GitHub, but I'm making sure If I at all have the src, that is the pure source code, I should be able to create a build out of it. That's why I'm creating a build. I'm runtime creating the dist folder during creation of this image and keeping it there. Where will it have? In the user src app folder, I'll have the dist folder, config folder, and then I also have all these 3 files. Okay, clear till now? Okay, then because after building I do not want my source code to be present inside the image, because if this image I'm giving to someone else, he should not have my source code, but he should only have the compiled code. That is okay, right? In the later phase we'll see how we can scramble the JS which is currently created, but for now better we can give the JS files, the compiled file, than the source code TS files. So I want to make sure that I do not give them the source code. So I remove the source code, I remove the current file, TS config file and TS lint file, and make sure that the person who will get this image will never get my source code. Okay, he'll only get the compiled code. And the second advantage for sure is my image size will always be smaller, because I am not keeping the source code as well as the compiled code inside the image. So that is another benefit to us. Next, what we are doing is we are just adding few of the environment variables. We have already seen that this environment variable we were sending through .env file. Okay, and my config.ts, using the .env, I was pulling those environment variables, right? So this way, because I do not use the .env during the dockerization process, what I'll do is I'll make sure that I'm passing it through this particular Docker file itself. Okay, next I'm exposing the port. Which port? This is the particular port 9001 port. This particular port I'm exposing. Why we are exposing? We want to confirm that this particular image, when it will run and a container instance will be created, that container instance will only be exposing one port outside the host machine. That port will be this, that is 9001. So the usual structure that will go through in this video itself next, that will point at this particular port, which is 9001, which is called as container port, to the host port during the running of the container. We'll see, we'll go through it. And the last part here is cmd node, that is I'm executing a command, that is node dist src server.js. Why dist? Definitely during the compilation phase we got the dist folder. Inside the dist folder we have the src folder, because the ts config says my output directory is dist/src, and inside that I'll be having this particular server.js file. Okay, so this file it is trying to run. So whenever this image will be converted to a particular container, it will try to execute this command. Perfect. Are we good with this Docker file? I hope. Okay, so let's see how we create the image. If I currently see docker image ls, I do not have any particular image here. Docker ps -a, docker ps -a, I do not have anything. Docker ps -a, I do not have any container. Okay, so let's do docker build. Okay, this is the command to create a build. Once we hit this command, it will search for the Docker file inside the current folder. I am in the Node.js folder, and it will start from start. It will try to pull Node.js 20 image from the Docker Hub repository, and it will continue doing the set of commands that we have requested for. Okay, so docker build, I want to try to build an image. -t is the tag with what is the name of the image and what is the tag. my name of the image is casa-cloud / node template, and it is always a good idea to give a versioning to this particular image. Okay, so my versioning is v1.0.0, and this will be incremental. Every time we do a new change inside the source code, this particular file will be executed, and we need to make sure we are setting up a logic that this version should be incremental. We'll go through this when we go through the CI and CD phase. Okay, but for now we need to understand every image should have a unique tag, and then .y dot in the current folder you need to find the Docker file. That's what it is, and press enter. Okay, so it is trying to pull the file, setting up the work directory, copying, running npm install. So for every command it is creating one layer after another. Okay, and it has done all the process. It has built and removed all the source code from there. So if I now go and see my Docker desktop images, I should be able to see the image. If you see, so let's see the image, which image it has created. Docker image ls. This should showcase what is the image that we have created. It is 1.7 GB image, and this is the image ID. I'm not sure why it is showing 2 hours, but it is just now created. Okay, and this is the name of the image, and this is the tag version of it. Okay, now do I have any particular container running? Docker ps -a, sorry, Docker ps -a. There is no container running. Let's try to run the container. Docker run, and what I'm doing is Docker run port of the image, port of the current host. What is my current host? The system right now, my MacBook, from where I am running. So it is the host for this particular Docker machine. So the port from the image, which is this particular port that we have given in app port, I'm pointing that port to my host port 9001, and then I'm just giving the name of the image and the tag, that is v100. Let's see. Okay, my server is started. It is already printing me the logs. The logs are from Winston. So it is saying my server started is in 9001. Yes, of course, that is the port that we have pointed to. Let's go and check if this server is created already. Localhost API, but instead of 8080, we need to go 9001 and press enter. Yes, my server is started. And if I want to just quickly try out, I can just give some kind of data, CasaCloud, enter, and yes, it is giving me 200 success code and with a unique request ID. Okay, so this is the quick video in which I just wanted to confirm that how a Docker file is created and how the images are created. In the next video, what we are going to do is we'll try to create a container registry in Azure and try to push this particular image that we have created inside that particular container registry, which will be a private container registry. So stay tuned for the next video, and thank you so much for watching today.